So, area of squares and rectangles. How to find the area of squares and rectangles? What's the formula for doing that? And a couple of examples at the end where we use that formula to help us find the area. First of all, here are a couple of shapes. The one on the left is a rectangle, the one on the right is a square. A rectangle has two pairs of equal sides, one pair there and one pair there, whereas the square has four equal sides. Both shapes have four right angles, don't they? And so on. The square is the same. We can find the area of these shapes here by counting the squares. Let's assume each square here is 1 centimetre by 1 centimetre. How many squares are there inside the rectangle? Well, there are 1, 2, 3 here, and another 3 here, making 4, 5 and 6. So this rectangle, we can say, has an area of 6 squares, or 6 square centimetres, which we can write as like so, centimetres squared. The square over to the right has 1, 2, 3, 4 here, and another 4 here, making 8, and another 4 here, making 12, and 13, 14, 15, and 16. The area of this square, we say, is 16 squared, or 16 centimetres squared. There we go. Now, looking at that, we can see, and you heard me say it, in fact, that actually we have 2 rows in the rectangle, each of 3 squares, and that actually leads us on to our formula. The length of this rectangle is 3 squares. It's 3 squares long. 1, 2, 3 squares long, and it is 2 squares wide, which means we have 2 rows of 3 squares, and 2 times 3 leads us to our area of 6. Similarly, over on the right, on our square, we have a square that is 4 squares long and 4 squares wide, and those two multiplied together, 4 lots of 4, give us our area of 16 centimetres squared over there, which leads us to understand that even if we have a shape that does not have the squares inside it, a rectangle or a square without squares inside it, as long as we know how long and wide it is, we can work out the area. Let's say this square rectangle here is 8 centimetres long and 4 centimetres wide. We could work out the area by multiplying the length, 8 centimetres, by the breadth, 4 centimetres, to get an answer of 32 centimetres squared. Similarly, one more. Here it is. This one, let's say, is 7. Oops, no, let's not say that. Let's say, let's get rid of that. It's 7 meters long and 3 meters wide. So the area will be equal to 7 times 3, which is 21 meters squared. Meters squared this time because the dimensions were given in meters. So, in other words, the formula for finding the area of any square or any rectangle will be to take the length and multiply it by the breadth or the width. I've written B for breadth. Other people will use the word width to describe this side here. That'd be fine. So length times breadth, or length times width. There's a formula. And we can use that formula, as I say, in examples where you're given the dimensions, as in here. Oops, where we're given that and that, 11 by 5. I would recommend always in an exam writing down your formula, if that's what you're asked to do. If you're asked to find the area of your rectangle, always start with writing the formula down. It shows you know what you're doing, and it reminds yourself that you know what you're doing as well. It makes you think about what you want to do. So area equals length times breadth. In this case, it's 11 meters by 5 meters. So the answer would be in meters squared, won't it? And 11 times 5 is 55 meters squared, and there's your area. We can also use this formula in a situation where we're told the area, but not both of the dimensions. I've done it again. Here we go. So let's say we have a rectangle here of 10 centimeters in length, but we're not given the width. And the area, we are told, is 30 centimeters squared. And we're asked to find the missing length. the missing side, the missing breadth, I suppose, isn't it? Let's start by writing out our formula. How do you find the area of a rectangle? Length times breadth. Here we go, length times breadth. Now, what we're going to do here is here's a maths word, substitute in a couple of values here. We've been given the area already. It's here, it's 30 centimetres. So instead of A, we can write 30. 30 then is equal to the length times the breadth of this rectangle, and we've also been given the length. Here it is, 10 centimetres. So it's going to be 10 times the breadth, whatever the breadth might be. Okay, we can use that information to work out the breadth, because effectively, if I turn this around, let's switch these numbers around a little bit. So we got 10 times b equals 30. In other words, if we take the breadth here and times it by 10, the answer we get is 30. So how can I find out what the breadth is equal to? Well, if I take the breadth and my 30 and I divide both sides by 10, that should tell me what my breadth is equal to. 30 divided by 10 is 3, which should mean that if we substitute in 3 centimetres here, that should give us the correct area, and of course it does, because 10 times 3 equals 30. So another way of looking at the problem down here is to say to ourselves, what do I times by 10 to make 30? And of course, again, you get the answer of 3 centimetres. So there we go. In that situation, we used our formula, area equals length times breadth, not to find the area, but to find the length of one of the dimensions that hadn't been given to us. That's a brief summary of how to find the area of squares and rectangles. There'll be a separate video on finding the area of rectangles and other shapes when you have mixed units of measurement in your dimensions.